Sure why. Uh, okay, we should be live. Wait, no, not yet. Yep.
Good evening. I'm Jerry McIntosh, and this is Our Voices, the People's Media. Tonight, we're going to address the convention and Kamala Harris accepting the nomination for the presidency of the United States. What a historic moment in history. And we're going to get right into it. So I'm giving it back to you, Derek.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening, or I should say. We are going to first, what I would say is introduce all of our hosts so that we can get right into it. And thank you for our executive producer and host extraordinaire, Mr. McIntosh, our distributor, good friend, and owner of WBQP TV, Mr. Vernon Watson, our author extraordinaire from the projects to the boardroom, Mr. Bill Snow, chair or state committee woman for the Okaloosa Democratic Party, the treasurer of the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida, and committee on clubs, caucuses, and organizations, and everything else, Jill Lewis-Daggs. The first vice president of the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida, the president of the Santa Rosa County Democratic Black Caucus, and Santa Rosa County Democratic Women's Club, Ms. Christina Forrest. And we are absolutely thrilled to have with us tonight one of our great leaders in the Florida Democratic Party. I wanted to share just a little bit about who she is, the Reverend Dr. Karen Green. She is a respected political strategist, a campaign manager, and mediator. In 2022, she was elected to the Democratic congressional candidate for Florida's 7th congressional district. A resident of the state, Dr. Green has consistently demonstrated leadership in addressing the pressing socio-political issues of our time, including securing civil liberties of immigrants and other minority communities, women's rights, youth development, universal health care, religious freedoms, social justice advocacy. Dr. Green serves currently as the appointed vice chair of the Florida Democratic Party. She is the chair of the did serve as chair of the Florida Democratic Party's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, as well as currently serves as the leader of the Florida Democratic Party's statewide faith-based leadership coalition. We know her as Reverend Dr. Karen Green. Jill, Christine, and I know her as friend. So I'm proud to have with us tonight Reverend Dr. Karen Green, the vice chair of the Florida Democratic Party. Welcome, Dr. Green. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I am humbled and honored to be here with you all. And thank you again for that introduction. My mother would say, wind it up. Let's just,
I shortened it just a little bit. There was a little bit more, but I was like, yeah, no, we'll go to it. We'll get to it.
Let's head up to everyone on the call, as well as to your viewers and listeners. This was truly, Jerry, a truly magnificent, historic time. And Christina, I'm so sorry you weren't there because you too were a delegate that didn't get to attend. It was euphoric. It was like nothing we've experienced. It was history made. And I must tell you, for those of you who know my friends, it was my birthday on the 19th of August. To be there at that date was just really, words can't describe the blessing that we had as a nation. To have this woman, this qualified, respected, decent woman, to be who will more than likely, and with prayers and work, we know we will have her as our president on November 5th and sworn in January of 2025. Again, I'm honored to be here. I'm excited to share how the convention went and just to answer questions and just to support you. I also want to encourage your listeners across the state and across the world listening that if you are eligible to vote as a US citizen in the United States, and if you're abroad and you have an American address as a US citizen, wherever you are, military or otherwise, you can vote. You ballot so you can actually make sure you go to right now we're setting up for Democrats abroad or home offices or home stations or home bases for the military. You know how to vote. You've done this for decades. But for anyone across the world who have not had any information on this, I know that we'll forward some information here on the next show. I'll ask Derek and Jill and Christina to share links with you. But please register to vote. If you're in the United States and you never registered for the primaries, you have until October 1st to register to vote for this presidential cycle. So I'm inviting you, Democrats, Independents, and/or Republicans who recognize freedom, democracy, and just the opportunity to protect voting rights. Because as he promised, the former President Donald Trump said, if you don't, this would be your last time you could possibly vote. So we'll get into some of the discussions that happened and some of the most powerful statements that came out of what was said. I think just on that point, soon to be President, Vice President Kamala Harris said one thing that was so impactful to me when she said the consequences. I think the statement was, just to be quoting her, her exact words was, he's a non, in other words, just to quote, he's really not an important guy, but the consequences of his ignorance could very well be the end of our modern free world. And that's not the exact word. She said he's a non-serious guy.
Unserious, yes.
Non-serious is what she used. But the seriousness of the consequences, if he ever got to the White House again, could change our world, our life, and our future. So we're just not going back, as you'll hear more about in this process. Again, thank you for having me here. And there's more to talk about it, but I think for starts, that's where we could start. We also heard from Oprah, who her comment was, common sense over nonsense. These were some of the things that were stated, and they were just blatantly bold and direct. And I'm just saying, I know we're leaving out of the convention without, seeing ourselves. Normally conventions give you a push in our polls, but I think
alert from device enrollment.
But I think, again, this is my system, please bear with me.
Alert from device enrollment.
See, because you're not here, Derek, we get those kind of stuff now. So when Derek is around, we don't have that kind of malfunction, right? But yeah, to my point, this is really going to be a critical election, and I know you folks up there in the Panhandle. I know there are a lot of folks there who see themselves as not Democrats. But one of the things that was said by one of the Republicans who's supporting our candidate is that democracy and patriotism is really what this Democratic Party is presenting. And the alternate does not have that. So let us just continue to focus on that. And again, I'm just happy to be here to open to any questions. I also want to know that the Florida Democratic Party, for the first time in a long time, Florida Democrats, because of the two issues we have on our ballot, women's rights to choose the freedom of a woman's body is really on the ballot. And we could see from other states that have had this kind of momentum that it changed the trajectory. But most importantly, as the daughter of an immigrant, as the president, I'm a born immigrant, but she is a daughter of two immigrants. This state of Florida is one that has the populace here is of an immigrant community. Many of us here, and I think she's speaking to the American dream of just having immigrants participating in this process. I really believe that we're at a good place in Florida to win this election cycle. So please, let's just get this done. And I'm open to any other questions or suggestions you have. Thank you for the introduction, my brother, Derek.
Happy to do so. I guess I will start off and I'll ask the question that I have. So we had an opportunity to see all 4 days, right? And from the television, the energy seemed to be palpable and overwhelming and just an era of positivity, hope, and excitement. Is that the best translation of what we actually saw, or was it? How did you feel? Like, I feel like all of us, for me going in, I will say I never really wanted to go to the DNC. That wasn't a thing for me. I'm like, no, I'm good on that. But having seen it, I'm like, oh, well, my bad. Maybe I should have gone, or maybe I should have applied to be a delegate, or ask for an appointed delegate or something. I don't know. Just this one time. Now, I'm not putting anything else out, but tell us, what was it like,
So let me share with you. This is my fourth convention, and I've served in all four conventions in a capacity of delegate and as a whip. And I can tell you that one of the momentous things about this cycle, this convention, is that we never had to physically whip. We went into this election united as Democrats and delegates across the country. That in itself was unanimous. That has never happened before. The responsibility of a whip is usually to get a consensus, to get us all to vote for one candidate. We this nomination to this convention as a unified front. So that was a whole different experience. And what you saw, Derek, and my brother and sisters on this call and across the globe, was nothing to compare to the euphoria that was in that room. Mm-hmm. When our nominee, Kamala Harris, came out on the first night as a surprise to everyone in the room, that was really a wake up. I'm getting chills right now. That was such an awakening of everyone who was in that room. I can share with you too that even on the streets in Chicago, there is a euphoria. I mean, there is just so much excitement around this candidate. It's almost like one of the things that was explained, Derek, in the room was there was a lady who was there. She was 101 years old, she says. She says she's registered at 99 years old, and she was a delegate, right? And she's saying that 60 years ago, when what is happening today, to her, she's happy she's living to see this. When we saw President Carter's grandson basically said his granddad is staying alive to put this vote in. I mean, that was magnificent. And then for me, the finale, which is somehow understated, is just the gratitude to President Joe Biden. That was also a very special time for everyone in the room and across the world. I mean, he's usually a very sentimental, soft-spoken gentleman to the most part, but he's emotional. And let me tell you, there was hardly a dry eye in that room. Men and women were teared up. So I'm telling you that, to me, one of my favorite presidents is truly Jim Carter, because of the modest work he's done. But I can tell you right now, Joe Biden is going down in history as one of the best presidents these United States have ever seen, not only for what he has accomplished post-pandemic, post all of the things, the infrastructure, the procedures and policies that he's implemented. We are going to go down in history. But most importantly, when he saw that, so to some extent, ageism was getting to him, and when he saw that the reality of what could happen, a man who had the vigor and mental stat, just the aptitude and wisdom to realize that he had to pass the baton to somebody who he saw was competent. And remember, he said this, Jill, I think you and I spoke about this in the past, where he said when he chose his running mate, the credentials, the criteria for being president, if needed, was already in place. And so that was just momentous. And then the other thing that was phenomenal, Derek, is I believe one of the first and greatest things that our soon-to-be president did was the choice of her running mate. Tim Walz is like none other. He's a humble, there's not a criteria you can put this man in. He's your coach, he's your teacher, he's your social worker, he's your military guy, he's real. I mean, I just feel that too was another very moving moment for us. And the criticism that came from seeing his son teared up with pride for his father, I think the criticism that came from that was just really stark and ridiculous. Because just think for a moment, your humble daddy, you see him there. You know this guy's not a guy who's out there boasting or with any kind of, but here is this real man. It was pride and love, and it was just, to me, just really an emotional, satisfying moment as a parent of a boy, right? To just see your son with that kind of a pride. So Derek, and to everyone who's asking, what was it like? From the moment you left the hotel to get into that bus, everybody was ready to participate. We were just waiting to see that time come. So contrary to what everybody was saying, we're all waiting for Beyonce to hit the stage because of the Freedom song. But the truth is, I think Pink delivered a beautiful song. And her daughter, I mean, everything was perfect. The first time in history we ever had a roll call with a DJ. When DJ Cassidy, the songs he chose for each state was just phenomenal. So anyone wants to know what it was, and Derek, yes, I think when she's reelected for the next fourth cycle, when she's going up for 2028, you need to be a delegate because you need to experience this in her second presidency. It was beautiful.
Hey, Derek, one of the things that I don't know most of it, where did you see it at? But we carried it live. We got the feed directly from the DNC. We carried every bit of it. It wasn't no commercials. It wasn't no commentary or anything. I noticed I kind of scanned the other channels. You know, they went to commercials or they was commentary, and you missed some of the stuff. But we carried it all the way through, and we intend to rerun it again next week. All 4 nights of it, we intend to rerun it. It is something that you gotta see. It's something I had never seen before. Something I really didn't expect to see out of I thought it was gonna be boring and all that kind of stuff. But it was exciting from every minute of it, and I saw all of it. Beyond, I saw all of it because I monitored it throughout the whole process, and it was absolutely great. Now, one of the takeaways that I took away from that convention, because I looked at the RNC convention, and I want you to see it's just like you remember back in the day they had an old commercial, a Pepsi and a Coke commercial, and one of them supposed to be lively. I think it's Coke supposed to be lively or something like that. And they had a commercial where the frat house supposed to order the lively Coke, and then the Pepsi supposed to went to the old folks home, but they mixed them up. And then the old folks were just juking and getting down where the frat house, but everybody's kind of bored. That kind of reminded me of those 2 conventions. But really the thing that really took away from that though, this convention represented United States of America. It was the diversity there. You look at the makeup of that committee, if you look at it side by side, make up the committee of the RNC, it was basically white. This convention was multicultural. It just represents United States. It represents the future United States. It was just, you don't get me, I don't get excited about too many things, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that convention. I really did.
Vernon, on that note, I'm sorry. One of the things you just touched was the demographic. I have never seen, there was access to podcasters. They had their own press space. And so there was, and as I said, I've gone to 4, this is my 4th, right? But I'm saying that the demographic, the under 21 voters, the intrigue of these young voters, and they were not just, as you said, the diversity was a reflection of our nation in that room. But to your point, young people are energized. And when you have young people wanting to vote, we're at a good place.
Well, it was 28 million that watched it on television, about 30 million watched it on the live streaming on social media with the content creators and all that was there. That was really awesome. And I watched it when I was in Atlanta, but I watched it on YouTube, and it was no commercials. You watched the whole thing all the way through. They was live feeding through there as well. So it was awesome to just hear all the speakers without all the other conversation that was going on and cutting in and advertisement and all of that. But it was really great.
I want to throw,
we're gonna have to talk about Michelle Obama too and President Obama. Go ahead, Bert.
Okay, I want to have to throw a shameless promotion here. I following this show, and we're doing the Stellar Awards at 9:00. But at 11:00, we are broadcasting that speech, the Obama speech, at 11 p.m. here on WBQP online. You can get it online as well, where we streaming it at as well. So,
well, you touched on one of the most important things that was said if you can remember when first Michelle Obama, when she made that comment about
Like jobs.
let me just read, because I had to capture that. She said she was pulling no punches, right? She cautioned that Trump would try to distort Harris's truth, much as he did everything in his power to try and for people to fear them, referring to her and her husband who served in the White House. This is what she said. His limited and narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who also happen to be Black, she said, defending and then the applause was just tremendous because she says, doing the Black job. She said it could very well that this job is set out to be a Black job. The house went down, mics dropped. It was really funny, crazy.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
No. I was just going to touch back when Dr. Green was speaking of the young folk. I was talking to a young preacher at church today, mid-30s, that said that he was most definitely, before he made a statement, he said, "You're probably going to reprimand me, but I was prepared to sit this whole thing out." But when I heard Madam Kamala on Thursday night, he said, "I knew that I had to be involved and get out and vote this year." So that is a testament to the magic. I did not have to be there. I felt the euphoria. This was different. It was different. And I'm not just speaking of the Republican convention. I'm speaking of conventions from years past. You get the confetti and everything that makes it seem like a joyous occasion, but the actual speakers and the words and the message in this convention was different. There's a tone that is, and like Brother Vernon said, the crowd, it represented America as far as the demographics. It was something to be proud of. Also, Christina, so good to have you back. Been praying for you.
Amen. Amen and amen is all we can really say towards that. Amen.
that DEI, I know they're having a problem with that now. That diversity and inclusion, because that's what that was about.
Yes. That in 2025.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so well done. Oh, that was brilliant how it was presented. Absolutely brilliant. When that young man from Saturday Night Live came and basically dissected 2025 with the illustrative, doing a improv, the whole place came alive. I mean, I can attest to that. Again, having been at conventions, there was, for those of us who are faith leaders and believers, it was one of those spiritual revivals. It was spiritual. It was a convention, almost like a crusade, right? It was that kind of a energy, and again, there was a unity of, for example, even the what we're dealing with in the world, the Muslims, the Jews, the disparity of other folks in the room. There was an opportunity as a Democratic Party for us to just really move on this, and so we don't want to leave here, because usually when you leave a convention, people get excited and then they just forget the moment, right? I think we just need to continue, just as you said, my brother Vernon, that you're going to be playing this over and over again. I would recommend that those of us who are in media and otherwise to find the highlights. If you're not going to play the entire 4-day strips, but find the highlights and get that reminded folks that this is what we need to be doing and going for, and not forget. And particularly to those like the young man in your church, whatever it was that inspired him, those are the kind of inspirational representatives we need in the field to get the others to support them who didn't take the time to listen. For sure.
I've been working on around and with campaigns since Jimmy Carter. I'm telling my age now. But anyway, I have never seen anything like it. Even when President Obama was the convention he was at, nothing to me, can have come close to this, what we saw this year. But what was so amazing to me, in 4 weeks, she has raised over $500 million. You know, people be running for 2 years and not raise that kind of money. And she got some, like, I think it was 500, the last count this evening was 568 billion and growing.
And coming from $5 and $10 donors who just really want to make sure that she's elected. You know, another thing was said was, you know, from the other camp, you know, basically criticizing her ability and seeing her as timid. And I just had to remind some folks yesterday, listen, from a personal space, we're talking about a woman who grew up with an Indian mother, whose culture is one of decision, organization, and she was in her own right an independent mind, to have married a Jamaican man outside of her Hindu faith. And they were both radical to their own belief, and they were both intellectuals, right? You can't tell that, first of all, an Indian woman, a Jamaican man, put it this way, she has three things going on. She went to an HBCU, she is Indian, and she's a Jamaican bred woman. There's no way anybody's gonna bully this woman. I can tell you from my own saying, because you know, you hear my accent, I'm Jamaican as well. Nobody is gonna move that woman outside of her decisions to do things. And there's no way she's gonna be fearing any kind of I think I'm so excited. I'm excited because you could see from her presence as a prosecutor, from all her life, she's never backed down and she's never lost. Even when she was in a presidential election, she stood down. She didn't lose. And for every campaign she's ran, she won. So we actually picked a winner.
You know, the Republicans went after her when she was running for attorney general in California. They tried to destroy her, and they tried to use the African American community to do it. I was reading about it the other day, how they went after her because they heard her speak and they listened to her words, and through your words they can judge how far you can go.
That's right.
And they went after her early on, and still she beat them only by because they went after her so hard. She only beat them by a few percentage points, but she won.
That's
and
right.
that catapulted her to where she is now, as you say, a winner. To go into the Senate. And when a lot of people, they showed how she drilled those potential Supreme Court judges, and the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, he said, "You got me confused." So that'll let you know right there how tough she really is. But just because she smiled don't mean that she not tough.
That right there is a part of her culture. You smile, and Derek can attest to that. A Caribbean smile is not always a smile. It's really reserving that other intention. Christina, you were one of the first persons who told me that this woman is going to be president. You've always been a supporter of the vice president. And I know you weren't there. How did you feel?
Oh, I blessed and more blessed to see so many of my friends there, to get to hear her, and to get, honestly, to hear the rest of the world finally figure out what so many of us already knew. It was truly, truly, truly overwhelming. Just gratitude, just incredible, incredible gratitude. I was in Oakland when she opened up her headquarters back in 2019. I was there when she closed it down. I was there when so many folks were having to write, letters to the editor, fighting against this negative narrative that was going up. And, we've been fighting that for years, so many of us. And, for her to take that stage, to see Democrats united, is what you said. It was just such an incredible feeling, spirit, and just overwhelming. It really was. And so many things that, like you were talking about DJ Cassidy, just the roll call itself. Like, I was like, go, 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 Florida had Won't Back Down. I was thinking about Nikki Fried, and every time she walks out, I was thinking about Representative Justin J. Pearson when he was talking during the Tennessee call, and it was just, when Georgia came out, and it was like turn down for. I was in bed, but I was like, oh, it was amazing. It was so amazing, and to get to see the rest of the nation excited for, like I said, what we knew, it was just powerful. And I didn't know a lot about Tim Walz. So it was incredible to see him and his family. I knew very, very little about him. So every single day, Michelle Obama's speech was, I was done, I'm looking at Jill's screen, it says do more. And all I'm thinking that's going through my head is when Michelle Obama kept saying, do something. And there were so many layers to her speech that it even talked to the party in itself, that, with the whole Goldilocks complex, and telling us that, what we needed to do within ourselves. There was so much there. And then to hear President Obama come in with his talking about
love it.
His
obsession with
crowd sizes. Like, it was amazing. It was amazing. But honestly, when Kamala Harris stepped out for the first time that first night, I was floored because I didn't know she was going to be there. And then to hear her acceptance speech and the history in that moment, the prayers of our ancestors, we truly are our ancestors' wildest dreams. And so it was just, I'm still in that moment, I guess.
Yeah, it's exciting. Absolutely.
Jill, we haven't heard from you yet.
So what I would say for me, well, of course, everybody's excited. All of that was there. I can't say anything more than what everybody has already said. But what I really liked was the fact that she knew what she needed to do, and she did it. It was as if she took the time to prepare for her court date, and she ticked every single box. And when she went into Israel and then came back with the other side of Gaza, done. Those young people were done. Like, that's what she needed to do. I got calls by my daughter's friends. She was like, Mom, that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear. And so I think that if we can take all of this energy, we don't want to take away from the phenomenalness of it and the history that we just made. But I don't want that to just be history we made. We need to continue to make it. And the only way to do that is to take this energy and not just stay in our democratic spaces. We're going to have to go into those deep, dark places and start talking and having conversations, changing minds, changing lives, so that we can make sure she is our next president. She has the popular vote won already, but the popular vote is not what wins the election and makes her president. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of work to do, but I think for those that needed to hear something, like, you could pick out, no matter, I feel like, I'm not everybody, but I feel like no matter where you were, like, if there was something you were questioning, something happened between those 4 nights that resonated with you. And the power that she had behind the moms that lost children and the gun violence, and just there was something in all 4 nights for everybody where you had to say, or at least see the difference between what the choice is and why Democrats, NPAs, and Republicans alike are coming together and saying that is the only choice. It is the only answer. So for me, Dr. Green, I saw you on the screen, just so you know, on Thursday, they showed you. So I was like, that's not Dr. Karen Green from the FBP, because I was in a watch party with a group of people. So we did see you. And just that, like, I can't say more than everybody else has said, the energy, the love, the way they laid it out, it was so strategic, but yet it felt like it was the way it was supposed to be, like family, like you just went to a family reunion and we're just giving you everything we got in case you forgot.
Yeah, Cheryl Moran is came in with us. Cheryl, how you feel about the convention?
It was amazing. It was like no other. It was exciting. The way they laid that convention out was it was nice. It was nice. I left. I watched it with my family. Everybody was energized. It was something that I hadn't seen before in the recent conventions. So I'm looking forward to the work that we're, getting into for this election.
Yeah, I don't want to derail the excitement, but we have to talk about things that are fact based, right, and things that we experienced. I know personally loved her statements on her stance on how she conveyed her message between the ongoing issues, the conflict between Israel and the Palestine, and the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. However, can you talk a little bit about there was some press coverage around the uncommitted delegates. How did that conversation unfold, and where do you think we left off with those folks? And then moreover, where do you think our efforts need to go with respect to engaging the Muslim community here in this election cycle?
That question is for me, Derek?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So first, let me remind you that we went into this convention. There were folks who, prior to our vice president nominee being the nominee, were not decided. When we left Florida, our entire delegation had already voted to support this candidate. So we did, as I mentioned earlier, we went into this nomination with a united front. But to your point, yes, it still exists. I mean, right now, there are negotiations. I know that, or this administration, Dave Sutherland, in policy negotiations, there are ongoing discussions. I know what happened within the last 48 hours. Keep in mind that this candidate, I think what has happened is that because her empathy during the discussions, she was one of those who did ask for humanitarian ceasefire a lot prior to this election cycle. So our Muslim brothers and sisters and people who are humanitarians, as I am, who believe that, innocent people should not die as a result of these kind of stuff, children and otherwise. I also believe that, most of us who are biblically studied or historical studied, history gophers, we do know what the Middle East is. And this has been a long time, long time situation, one that we pray for. Every time we talk about we pray for peace, it usually is for the Middle East, right? So to your point, we didn't leave there with any hostility, but there were obviously people who wanted to still have their voices heard. There were people who were in silent protest to be remembered, to basically show that they too are not only wanting to have the Israeli children return home, the people who are being held, but they wanted to also protect the innocent and what they see as genocide in their own words. They've used those words, right? So we did have a matter of expression, but one of the things that these United States provide is the free expression to protest, free speech, and all of those. The Democratic Party was not going to have you silenced, because then you and I know, especially you three people here who know me well, is that one of the things we've done in this Democratic Party under my leadership with the faith leadership is that every faith, regardless of who you call God, by whatever name you worship, we have exercised free speech to call your creator by the name you choose to worship your creator by, right? And this was the same thing going in. If you notice, the invocations were done like we do here, Jill, where we literally had representation, an imam, a rabbi, and or a Protestant, a Christian prayer. So we had all that to show the unity that exists in the Democratic Party. So to your point, Derek, there's work to be done. Part of it is the education of things. I'm praying and hoping, and with her experience of having served in those rooms with the policy negotiations, having gone to these nations where we have our adversaries and have tried to make these negotiating peace deals. But one of the things we should not take for a moment, as I said before, this woman has been tested, as Christina mentioned, and it's not just from the strength of her loyalty to her friends, to protect her friend, standing up to bullies. She is in her bread. Her father was a radical. Her mother was an independent-minded woman, and she studied to be a defender. So don't think for 1 minute that anybody who sees themselves as a bully or a tyrant or a dictator is going to see that smile or that giggle. And don't think she still doesn't have the keys and the codes to our military weaponry. So to your point, we have a lot to do. We still have to unite our people. But I believe because of the position she took, understanding what it is to have apartheidism and segregation, and the fact that her history has already proven that. Remember, her parents met in a civil organized meeting. So they were already involved in civil protests and or civil organizing, right? So I'm just saying, I think on the point of the unity that needs to prevail and the expression of people that we have within our party, we're going to have to find a common ground. And I'm praying that we get to a place of peace as we move into this cycle. Because you remember what we heard at the Republican convention, where the former president was actually threatening when he had Netanyahu come to his office at Mar-a-Lago at the dinner. He basically said, we're getting ready for a World War IV. He can stop it if he's elected. You remember hearing that? That he literally had that kind of coercion. He was saying, I remember hearing that discussion. I'm like, what the heck? And then immediately after that, you heard Netanyahu going home to threaten some other nation. And I'm just saying that he's almost wanting to be the leader of the world, not just the free world. And I think he's taking that position where and I'm not speaking this from a policy expert position. Yes, I've had some policy training, but I really feel that we know America is the strongest and best country in the world, right? Our military is like none other. And anybody who runs this country is the chief of staff of our military, of our country, of our world, right? So Donald Trump is positioning himself, and then he has these people who know the Putin's, his buddies. He's trying to show that he's the leader of this group. And let's just think this man is having dinner, in my opinion, I just found it to be so strange that you're having your own policy negotiations and you're not even the president with basically suggesting that if you're not elected, we're going to have World War IV, World War III. Did you hear that? Was it only me who heard that? I mean, that's what we're up against. So we got to remind folks of the real things. They used to give us the fear talk back in the 90s and stuff. We need to remind them, we heard you. Dictator the first day you become a president. Mass deportation of immigrants. We're going to get rid of the government sector and bring in your own people. No more federal employees. We're going to get rid of the school boards. Education will no longer be federal. We're going to get rid of your health. No more universal health care. I mean, this guy is telling people what he planned to do. So when we're talking to folks, and everybody who's listening to your program this evening need to be reminded, it's not just taking away women's rights. It's about what's interesting to me is that one of the Supreme Court justices in Clarence Thomas, he forgot that 60 years ago, he couldn't have been married to a white woman. And here he is talking about these issues. So let's just be, the world has evolved. We all have interracial families, right? This is not about who you are anymore. It's about how you are. not who you are, how you are. And we're not going back. We're not going back. And we need to, when every time, because their slogan was, make America great again, we need to own this. We're not going back, and joy and victory is at the helm. And those of us who are prayers are praying for victory. We're praying for the joy and the jubilance of victory. And that's where we are. We ain't going back.
I know we were talking about her, but she needs a Senate and the Congress, the House. She needs the Senate and the House. And we have to focus on that as well. And hopefully, she can bring along others who are supporting, who will support her, and not try to undermine her position and power that she will have and her mandate. But do you think that the Electoral College is going to get in her way? Or do you think the vote will be so overwhelming that she wouldn't have to worry about it? But I think if she wins, I hope there's a movement to end the Electoral College in this country forever.
And term limits. Amen. So let me say this, that we cannot take anything for granted. We have battlegrounds, Pennsylvania, Michigan, we still got work to do. And I still think Florida is at play, contrary to what people think, right? I think that we need to do what we're doing now, remind folks, get them to register to vote, because we will have some era of voter suppression and election threats, or people will be fearful of going to the polls. All these things are in play, especially in the South. We've seen it. Our governor in DeSantis has actually brought out his poll working unidentified Gestapo, in my own words. But we got to make sure we get this thing done. We want to make sure we're registering to vote by mail, get it done early so we don't have any roadblocks. Let me tell you one thing that the media might not have carried. We did have protesters who at one point in Chicago blocked the buses from coming in. We had delays by protesters. So the Republicans are trying for us not to even have a convention, right? So let's just be clear that we want to make sure we get our votes in early. Let's not have that crisis, right? And to your point about the Electoral College, we cannot take this simple. I personally believe that if the momentum we left the convention with, and with the intrigue, and if we all do our part, this cannot be a close election. We have to have a landslide to make it undisputable. We have to make sure that when you look and you're counting states, you're not looking for 5,000, 10,000 votes. We want to have, oh my God, I just got chills. We want to make sure that there's 100,000. As we know about we talk about the trumpets, going around Jericho. We want to make sure that the army is in place, that every vote, nobody there saying, oh, we have to go recount. We don't want no recounts. We want a landslide. So that's where I'm at.
I'm sorry. Dr. Green, on our live Facebook stream is very, very active tonight. We've got Samuel X. Clark that says, there will never be peace in the Middle East as long as we keep weaponizing Israel and making them the largest welfare state. Why would a superior power negotiate with an inferior power? We have genocide going on there. Rose Shelby Williams, also a faithful viewer of the show, says some states are setting up steps not to certify the election if the Dems win. The Dems must win by a landslide.
Hear, 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 hear. I know exactly that person who is talking about what is happening in the Middle East. I've been to Gaza. I've been there from a missionary place as a faith leader. I've walked those streets. And I know we're not talking about a large, we're talking about a condensation. The truth is, my position on this is very unique. And so it would be for another program. But I also know that there is a solution. And we have to have leaders who are open and willing to negotiate for the well-being of our people. Okay? And that person who is concerned, one of the things we cannot lose is hope and faith. We can never give up on faith, and we can never give up on hope. And that's what's kept these people alive for centuries. Because in all fairness, we all know on this picture here that we all came from Africa because of how we look and how we got to this continent. But the reality is, in the Middle East, they're all related. They're all bloodline. We're all from the same, most of them are from the same tribe, in all honesty. So at some point, I believe if we have the right leaders, we had in our teaching, the prayer for Esther, the prayer of the negotiation of Joseph, and the prayer of Job, we gotta find these people who will be willing. Because sometimes fighting is not the only way to negotiate. Peace is one of the biggest weapons of negotiation. And that is where we need to be leading. We need to find the right mediators, the right defenders, the right people, the right values. And a lot of those children coming out of Gaza, brilliant minds, their stories will be told and remind folks of where we've been and where we can't go back. We cannot go back, not just in America, but in the world. We cannot go back to racism, apartheidism, dictatorship. We cannot go back to slavery, imported slavery. This is why immigration is so important to us in this country. That the work, you wonder why they're against immigrants, right? But again, it's another story. But right now, I'm just saying, for the person who's concerned about the Middle East, I am, our vice president is, and everyone on this call I know is. So let's get to it. For peace.
I agree. I'm sorry. I agree wholeheartedly, Dr. Green, that it's just a matter of finding the right people. And just coincidentally, speaking of Jimmy Carter, in '79, he signed that peace accord that they did get a few years of peace. So it is, I do believe, just a matter of finding the right people. But we've got to also understand that over 2,000 years ago, it was written that we should be praying for the peace of Jerusalem, Psalms 1:22 and 6. Right. So they've been in turmoil. I get his point. But I do believe that prayers work and change things. And if the right people are in place, that we can garner.
Amen.
But I'm going back to the landslide. Now, I know it could possibly be a close race, but I don't think we should just depend on a landslide if she wins. That, the election has to be fair and just. And that means that on a federal level, that we need the Justice Department, we need to demand that the Justice Department come into all of those battleground states and make sure the vote is counted right and certified. And if the people don't certify, move them out the way and get somebody that will certify, even if the governors put them there, because the Justice Department has that kind of authority. And I don't think we should capitulate to somebody like this criminal, Donald Trump. We know he's a criminal. We know he'll lie because every time his mouth moves, it's a lie coming out. So I don't think that we should allow them to take this election away just because it may be close, and allow them to use the Electoral College to justify that. Because if she's winning the electoral vote, if she gets to 270, that's all she needs. That is all that's required to become president of the United States. And just because it may be close does not mean she should not take the office of the presidency of the United States. And, and myself, I hope it is overwhelming. I hope if she beat him till he don't come back out anymore to even think about running. I hope she beats him that bad. But by the same token, I also understand that it's a possibility in a society like we live in right now, where it's almost evenly divided. Even though I know that there are some Republicans going to vote for Kamala Harris. I know that when all of these people begin to raise funds, like when the Black women did their fundraiser, then the Black men, then the white dudes for Kamala.
Yeah, women, all of
them. So it's been awesome. That part of it is awesome. But we have to be realistic too that it could be a close election. But that don't mean that it should be taken away from her. That means that we have to make sure that it's done properly, and the Justice Department should be involved, and we should demand that the Justice Department be involved. Go ahead, Jill. I'm sorry.
No, I think that you're right, but I think what Reverend Dr. Karen Green was saying is, take, for example, local race in Oglesby County. They have been counting ballots over and over again since the election. They just now have called it the person lost by 14 votes. We do not want it to be close. So while we're doing all that other stuff, if we can say that she won by 1 million or 2 million, that's so much better than it's 14, because we'll be in court for the rest of our life if it's that close. That's why we're saying we've got to win by a landslide, not because what you said, Jerry, is absolutely true. We do need to require that, have that done. But if it happens in a local race, and the election was how long ago? And they just now called it 14 votes, wrong person too, but that's a whole nother story. As far as working for the entire community and the people of this community. So local, state, federal, we've got to fight like we've never done before to make sure that the right people get in office.
And Jill and Jerry, one of the things we want to avoid doing is when you say it so often, people start believing it, that, this is a difficult race and we might very well, we got to start speaking word to what we mean and what we want. And yes, it's going to be hard because they're using that narrative. They're literally threatening us that the race is going to be tight. So if we continue to hear that, people sometimes get get despondent or dissuaded. We cannot continue to say that. You say it so often that people believe it, because that's what he's been doing for a long time, saying he was wealthy and people thought he was telling the truth, right? So we just got to keep pushing for what we need. I was telling a group of folks yesterday that usually I suggest to folks, you get 10 people that who you're going to commit to having those 10 people vote. But I'm saying right now, 10 is not enough. 10 is 10% of what you need. You need 100 people. Okay, so you go through your book and you go through 100 people in circle, and you get them 100 people either committing to the point of make sure that they're registered to vote, make sure they're eligible to vote, and commit to checking to see if they sent their ballots off. You put your own call time once a week, 3 hours for the week, and you call those 100 people as your personal, when the winning happens, in the state of Florida, your 100 votes counted and their 100 votes counted. Forget the 10-point count. So if we really want to see a race that's not close, we're going to put our 100 in and let's get this done.
Yeah. I have a question. I want to circle back. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you've been up all week and had a long week, and we think we're taking the time. But you said something that I think Jill oftentimes says it ain't true, right? And I use that very grammatically incorrect, but I said it to emphasize the point. You said that you believe that Florida is in play. I know Jill always says, yeah, no, but I'm glad to hear you say that. But I want to piggyback off of what Mr. McIntosh and others have echoed. We're focused very much on the top of the ticket, but we have a lot of down ballot races, right? This is the first time in the state of Florida, the first time in 30 some years that every seat is being contested in the state legislature. And we've got candidates running in congressional races that are also high profile and very contentious. Do you think that her candidacy is going to have an effect such that those races will be favorable? Where do you land on that? Because we now have had a primary, and I want to share with everybody the results of primary across the state by county. But we had an election where we are fortunate now to have Debbie McCarcel Powell at the top of the ticket for the U.S. Senate to face off Rick Scott. what do you think the Harris Walz campaign has an upside to those elections, or how do you think they'll go? And what do we need to do to make sure we push those things over the edge?
Well, just say this: it is important. Yes, to your point, in a presidential election cycle, it's always a good year for candidates running on a Democratic ticket in a state, especially when in the state of Florida we have 2 ballot initiatives that are going to be activating not just Democratic voters. And the unique thing is that in the general election, the primary was a close race. In the general, anyone who's a registered voter can vote for the president and or for the head of the ticket in this instant, which would be Debbie McCroskey-Powell. So Debbie's name was all over the national during this week because we need to secure Florida's Senate seat. We need to reclaim those victories. And to your point, is that yes, whenever there's a presidential cycle, we typically have the best results in the state because the top of the ticket usually drives the voters out. In this case, in the state of Florida, Debbie is the top ticket within the Democratic Party. And so anyone who wants to vote out Rick Scott support her, not just as a Democrat, but usually when you go into a polling cycle, and I'm just saying this from my own experience and having been in this business for a very long time in the trenches, you usually vote along the line where you feel best, where your allegiance is. So you're going to find within the next couple of weeks that Debbie's commercials will also be in sync with the presidential. You're going to see the Senate campaigns going through. We're going to be making sure that we have slates that have names on it, that people are educated within the different state, counties and otherwise. Let me just say this, why I'm suggesting that Florida is at a good place. On election night, historically, ever since we basically secured a lot of the education races. If you look to see how the primaries ended up, we have women, that we did very well in the election, the primary section for these uncontested races, particularly in our education space. We also, within the last 4 weeks, Florida has, up until, this is Wednesday, 31,000 new volunteers signed up to help with this presidential election. And that's just counting a week ago, right? So I'm saying,
now.
Yeah, all right. So know now, and that's just counting. Only not even those who were in Bill's church today, them young people, those didn't count. So from church today, others are joining the lead. I'm just saying that, to my point, we know where we just left. People are energized, activated, coming out of this convention, and women's freedom is on the ballot. And what was unique too about how we presented women's right to choose, it wasn't just about abortion. I've always been saying this to you folks, that the Democratic Party is a big tent. It's not about abortion, LGBTQ rights. It's about pocketbook issues, environmental. It's about education. It's about social. It's about housing. Everything is included for everybody in this big tent, right? So I'm happy how they presented that from an economic piece, from a family piece about women's choice and women's health. And that was brilliant. So these are the things that where I'm saying, Derek, I believe Florida is at play. And I know because a lot of folks are coming up to us, the governor of Illinois, the governor of Michigan, people were there with us during this convention, willing to help to lift this state back up, especially when we saw where, these women against everybody who Trump endorsed in Florida basically almost lost and across this country. So listen, I believe, and I'm leaving here on this call this afternoon to tell you all, we got to do this thing and we got to do it big. And I'm not going to be driving down from Orlando to Florida to count any close 1-point race. We need to wind this thing down, and we need to make sure that we win across this country, that when we sit back on November 6th, because we're still an hour different from where I am, when the numbers come in, I want to be able to say, sisters, it's time. We're going to have a whole retreat. Bill, we're having church up in your county. We're going to have a whole thank you church celebration. So yes, guys, I thank you for having me on. I'm going to have to leave you. I have a call that they're calling me for. It's been 5 minutes over. Blessed love. Victory to
much for joining us this weekend.
And joy. We need to be laughing like the president. Joy.
Yeah.
Bless you. Take care.
Blessings.
Dr. Green. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
I'm definitely going to say this. Oh, go ahead, dear.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that was the wonderful Dr.
Since
Karen
Derek would
Green.
like to, let me just clarify what Jill said. So I don't want the rest of the population that is watching this to say that Jill said you're not important, that it is not critical. But if you listen to what she said Florida is at play. You know why we're at play? Because we have 45,000 volunteers that said they're ready. But if those 45,000 volunteers go out and knock on the same darn doors that we knock all the time, we are not in play. We are at yeah, we look at it different. And there's a difference. Derek calls that semantics. I call that reality. We have been at play for the last 10 years. We need to be in play. We need to be part of the change. And for that to happen, you're going to have to branch out into spaces that we're not normally in. We're going to have to bring in this show and everything else that we do, MPAs and Republicans, and have those hard conversations so that they will engage, or we will be at play, but not in play. And I want to be in play.
There you go. There you go. For those, everybody, we want to thank Dr. Karen Green for joining us yet again. She is a wonderful value add to the Florida Democratic Party, and we are grateful to know her and to work with her and to stand alongside her in this fight. So again, thank you, Dr. Green, and thank you for all that are listening. Mr.
Wasn't she at the annual convention back in Orlando?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought I saw her there. I didn't get a chance to speak.
If you recall, she did the moderated the candidate extravaganza. So
Yeah. I thought, yeah.
I thought this Samuel S. Clark wrote another. I think it should be discussed. At least I know Mrs. Harris said, "I'm not going to do anything and only going to benefit Black people with passion." But does she have a Black agenda? Didn't see it or on her webpage. Now I'm not for Mr. Trump, but at least he had a Black agenda on his page. I'm hearing lots of the youth want to know, what are they going to get for their vote outside of the symbolism? You know, one of the things we have to remember is that a president they have to be you can't say that I'm gonna do just something for Black people only. You won't get elected. But there's an atmosphere that they can set that can be pushed down to the local politics, if their agenda is right. And I think she can do that. I think she can, set the atmosphere for a whole different climate in this country from her speech, from what she said. When you listen to her speech, she was talking about things that would affect all of us. But as president, you just can't say that. You wouldn't. I mean, if you're running for president, you can say it, but you definitely won't get elected if you're saying, "I'm just going to do something only for Black people." That won't get you elected. But I think what we have to do is to have an agenda ourselves, so that we can take that to the president once they are elected, or to the Congress, because Congress have to pass the agenda has to go through Congress and the Senate on to be signed by the president. And that's what we have. That's why we need Hakeem Jeffries as the Speaker of the House. We still need Chuck Schumer as the chair of the Senate. So we have to know that, they can speak on issues after they are elected with the Congress and the Senate. So that's what's going to have to be done. Trump put something out there we know is a lie, and and I know Brother Clark know that as well. He has something on his website, but all his action tells a different story. And when he talk about Kamala Harris is a lunatic, that she has, that she's she's not intelligent. He's not just talking about Kamala Harris. He's talking about our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, our friends. He's talking about every Black woman in the country. So we have to make sure, and the brothers have to make sure that he cannot say that and get away with it and continuously.
Amen.
Because, we have to stand up and say, no, enough is enough. And the agenda he has, if you look at that 900 and some pages of that Project 2025 is nothing but to destroy everything that it's a turning back of the 20th century. And he intends to do that. Him and his right-wing lunatics since he calling people lunatics, him and that group from the Heritage Foundation has to be turned back. They cannot, along with a Citizen United who has flooded this country with dark money and money coming from everywhere that we don't know where it's coming from. So we have to make sure that we understand and let them know that we understand what they are doing. But yeah, I'm definitely for the sister, Kamala Harris, and I don't see any reason why we should not vote for her. Not one. Especially listening to what she said. Everything that she said is not going to come to fruition. But there's a lot of things that she can do. There's a lot of places she can go within our community to uplift and make sure that our children see her and know that they can aspire to do the same thing. So I'm just want to hear what y'all say on that.
I agree with you. I think that I heard the same comment just today about what is she doing for black folks. And that irritates me a little bit because I think the agenda, what she does, will always affect everybody and all black folks. I kind of harken back to when I grew up in the 60s under the George Wallace years, okay? George Wallace II, But despite all his talk and all of his rhetoric and all that other kind of stuff, black lives actually improved under George Wallace because of his policies. His policies may not was directed to help black people, and maybe he was helping the poor white people, but those policies actually help black folks. You know what I'm saying? But he was saying that I want to help white folks, and he did. But in effect, what I'm saying is, for policies, you don't have to be specifically addressing black people, but I think black people will benefit on all the agendas that she talked about. And we will benefit from it. So we don't have to have a specific black agenda. But I think that's just a naysayer's voice, because I heard the same thing. Well, when Barack Obama was in there, he didn't do anything for black folks. Hell, I said when George Bush was in there, he didn't do anything for black folks. They don't apply the same standard to non-black presidents and they do to white presidents. So, but all I'm saying is, just get these folks off of that agenda about this black agenda, because I believe that she would do what best for the whole country, and black folk is included in that number.
Well, I tend to think, when I look at this situation, when we talk about the black agenda and whatnot, I think I look at it like, I think people are expecting, like, okay, for you Hispanic people, I am going to do the following, da 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 da. Black people, I am going to do the following, da 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 da. I think what we need to understand, to the point, I think we've already said it, but I just want to be clear about it, is look at the policies that she's saying and just determine how it helps black people. For example, continuing to fight to put the cap on insulin, right? When we know that diabetes affects black people in a disparate way,
right?
To me, that's a black agenda item. But whether it's lumped in as, oh, okay, this is specifically for blacks, so diabetes is not a black disease, as we say it, but its impact on black Americans is disparate as proportional versus non-blacks, right? So I understand that when we talk about a $25,000 first-time home buyer credit.
Mm-hmm.
That improves that leads to generational wealth, which is a very thing that we as Black people are striving to accomplish. Like, we know that home ownership is the very foundation of what breeds generational wealth. And the fact that we would open the door to having more of us become homeowners under that policy, to me, although it's first-time homebuyer credit, to me, that's a part of the Black agenda. You know, when I see Kamala Harris saying, I'm going to open it up for Medicare patients that are on Medicare Part D to have free vaccinations and other healthcare screenings, to me, that is part of the Black agenda. Although there is an impact and a benefit to other people, that is also part of what I consider to be a Black agenda. And more importantly, she spoke about codifying the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. That is the paramount of what I consider to be the Black agenda. So, I mean, I don't know how much more Black you can get than voting rights, you know, when I look at it like that. But, you know, to me, that is what I look at. She also talked about, you know, making sure that we get further along with the justice and policing and things of that nature, and criminal justice reform. I mean, do you call it the Black agenda, or is it something that is going to be a direct benefit to Black Americans? You know, I guess that's the way I frame it. I'm looking at it from a totality standpoint and not, you know, like, this is us, you know, this is specifically us. That's how I look at it. I mean, maybe it's just me.
Well, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right about that, because I look at it the same way, Derek. It's just like Black history. You know what I'm saying? But there's really no such thing as Black history. It should be American history. But because we've been excluded, we are forced to call it ours and teach our own folks. But it shouldn't be that way. It's the same kind of thing that you were just saying to your very point. Jared, go ahead.
Well, when you talk about debt forgiveness, you know, you think about that debt forgiveness. I know 5 people right now that have, you know, that their debt was forgiven from when they was in college.
Yeah. And
then you talk about the money that they have put into HBCUs around the country, over $16 billion. You know, she is the one that was behind the scene making sure these things happen. And when you talk about women, Black women who die in childbirth at a higher rate than anybody else, or even third world countries, you know, she's addressing those issues. And so, but the policy, when her policies are put in place, that's going to help every policy that she put in place. Just like Joe Biden type the infrastructure bill, so many Black people had to get contracts in that infrastructure. So once you get there, then you can make sure that whatever policy or a bill is passed, that you can make sure that bill is tied to the Black community as well. I think that's how we're going to look at it. And I know Brother Clark is a great brother, you know, so I'm not, you know, I'm just saying we have to make sure that, it's not just on her, but we got to put pressure on the Congress, and we have to put pressure. The Congress consists of both the House and the Senate. So we have to make sure that we put pressure on that body as well as the president, because they the one have to write the legislation. They're the one has to pass it out the House and through the Senate so that she can sign those bills. And so we have to make sure that we are putting the same amount of pressure on them that we will put on her. Of course, she's going to be the mouthpiece for America. So she just can't say, I'm running as, you know, only for Black people.
Folks, yeah.
But a lot of things that she's going to do is going to help a whole lot of Black people in this country.
I don't know how many people had to sit down, Jerry, on April 15th every year and write a check to the IRS. That $4,000 tax cut will absolutely help a lot of Black folks.
Yeah, it will. It will.
So,
Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Bill.
You hear me? Oh, you said Bill. Sorry.
Yeah, Bill was trying to get in
Yeah,
there.
I was just saying. I was just saying. I'm one of the ones. That's one of the hardest chicks I write yearly. Yeah.
You're the only one.
Lord have mercy, Jesus. That's a hurting. That's a sinking feeling.
Jill, what were you gonna say?
So I agree with everything everybody, believe it or not, I believe it, everything y'all said. But what I would say is, remember I told you in my statement when you said, what did I take from those 4 days? She was strategic on purpose. If she would have gotten up there and said, this is what I'm going to do for Black people, and this is what I'm going to do for Black people, this is what I'm going to do for Black people, then all the other people that are not Black would have been like, oh, she's just doing it for Black people. But what she did instead was she assumed, she wanted, she desired for us as Black and brown people to read through the script, as Derek very eloquently just mapped out for you, that I am here for Black people. But in being here for Black people and white people and Asian people and Mexican people and all the people of the world, it all comes together. To the other point of Trump, for those people who are looking at 45's anything page, I would just question why. But if you're looking at his page and you see that he has whatever for Black people, you have to remember this is the same man who questioned whether Obama was Black, whether Kamala was Black. So you might not be included in his things he's going to do for Black people because you got to prove you Black in the first place. So why are you thinking, like, why is that where you would go? You might not even be Black. As Black as you know you were the day you were born and everything you've been through. In his book, you might not be one of those Black people.
Amen.
Well, you know, when you go back and look at what he said and how he have treated the President Obama and his family, and Michelle Obama talked about it also other night when he started the birther movement. Michelle and President Obama and her children understood they were putting their lives in danger when he was talking like that. You know, that he was trying to set them up to be assassinated some kind of way. When you go to talking about this person is not a citizen of the United States, that he wasn't born here, you know, then you activating the nut wings out there that will do anything to try to please Trump and to try to kill somebody. You know, so yeah, he put their lives in danger when he did that. And then when you go talk about the housing discrimination, they had to sue him to lease a rent to Black people. And then when he bought the casinos in Atlantic City, they say he told the Black people the Black people had to leave when he come through there. So all of these things that this monster has done, you know, this 34-time felon, 2-time impeached rapist is now running for president, and a person that might have stole something and got a felony can't even vote in the country. But this.
Yep.
You froze, Jerry.
I think Jerry's Wi-Fi got him.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
So as we're waiting on Mr. McIntosh to come back, I think what
Trump
I'd
might
like
have got him.
what do you say? He censored his microphone. Are you back with us? Oh, he's back. Okay. Can you hear me?
Jerry.
Okay, there you are. All right, you're there with us. You know, what I would like to do is, if we could, just spend a little bit of time on, well, a couple things. One, well, I guess we'll go in order. It's the primary, and then let's talk about some things that we've seen locally here in the press and in the news and on Facebook, because we do need to spend some time on that. So we all came through the primary, right? And so we now know what the ticket looks like, right? Of course, we have Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, but let's talk about the state of Florida, right? Boom, boom, boom. Mr. Vernon, Christina, I know y'all was pushing one direction, but we've got Miss Debbie McCarcel Powell at the top of the ticket, right? So who is poised and ready to beat and unseat Rick Scott. For our area, as we move down, we have, Jill, go ahead. I see your hand.
I don't know what to say, but I just want not so much that Debbie won Florida, but I need you to hear these numbers. And maybe Derek's going to go by county. I'm not doing by county. I'm just doing it overall.
Yeah.
Are you doing by? I was just going
to
do
the overall. Go ahead. So I was going. Yeah, I'm doing something.
Overall, Rick Scott got 1,283 ... thousand votes, and she got 747. She literally is within 300,000 votes. It is absolutely possible, probable for her, with the excitement we have, if people get out and vote Kamala in, that we could unseat Rick Scott. So again, I told everybody you have 24 hours. I don't care who you voted for in the primary. Going forward, everybody who stayed home, which I'm sure we're going to get to, we need you to come out. Everybody who voted for somebody else, I need you to get on board. Everybody who voted for her, I need you to continue to push forward, because it is truly, and I'm sure Derek's going to break it down for you, but that alone, and that has made, that's why when Dr. Karen Green said she was everywhere, because she's so close. In a primary where we really didn't get out to vote, she's so close. Where they outvoted us, she's so close.
And as you say that, that's a perfect segue to what I wanted to share, because I'm going to put up something. So we got through the primary, right? And I want to share, I know Dr. Green said that Florida is at play, in play, some kind of play we're playing, right? But I'm going to show why. If the general election resembles the primary election, we out of play, we struck out, we're doing everything we got to do, right? So here's what I want to show you, right? Here is a graph of the turnout by party and in total for the August 2020 primary. As you see, the overall voter turnout was about 30%. 30.5%, almost 30.6. Democrat turnout across the state of Florida was at 30.7 turnout. Republicans had about a 37% turnout, and others, which are NPA and all the minor parties, had 11.75. What I want to show you, it's not that the voter turnout was low, which it is, but what I want to show you is what this graph represents. If we look at this graph from left to right, the 67 counties are at the bottom. It might be hard to see, but this goes, if you look to the far left, this represents the counties with the highest voter turnout, all the way to the right, which is the counties with the lowest voter turnout. What you will see in this, and you can't see, if we look at, again, the dashed line in the middle is the average turnout. We're looking at our yellow line, right? Our blue line. Our blue line is Democratic voter turnout, right? So as you see, small counties outperformed everybody in this election cycle, right? So Taylor County, I don't even know where Taylor County is, but Taylor County, Hamilton County, Jefferson, we all know Gadsden, just just west of Tallahassee. Baker, which is up by Jacksonville as you're going on I-10. These smaller counties all did well. And then you finally, as you go, and you hit what you see way down here, over here, where this dip is, that's Broward County, way down towards the end. Mm-hmm. Miami-Dade, further down at the end. Palm Beach is up here towards the middle, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is our larger counties performed poorly. Us here in the Panhandle, we're down here. Look, Duval, which we saw great gains. Look how far down they are in terms of the smaller counties. So all of these much smaller counties performed much better. They had a much better voter turnout than our larger, or what we call big blue counties. We can't afford to see that in November. If we see that in November, just write it off. We're stuck, right? We see Escambia way down here. Santa Rosa is just a couple of spaces before us. Like it's like we're staggered. Okaloosa turned out more, then there we skip one, then there's Santa Rosa, then we skip one, then there's Escambia. We're way down here towards the bottom, right? So we absolutely have to do our part to make sure that we get voters out. I mean, we're way below the average, as you see, for the voter turnout for the state. We got to do something. We got to get this out. We got to do something better. So, you know, we're saying that it's in play. I see you, Jill. We're saying it's in play. The numbers aren't saying it's up. What you gonna say?
Are we in play? Are we at play? We are
well, we're not even at play. We just standing in the dugout right now.
You're at the table.
Yeah,
but I don't know, you are playing checkers, they're playing chess. I'm just saying. Right. So I believe in, I guess for me, I always want you to get true reality. The hype is there, the volunteers is there, the energy is there, but this alone tells you that that is not play.
Right.
That is an absolute loss for the state of Florida. And if we lose, we then take away from the win from the top of the ticket all the way down.
Right. So we look at all these Gulf County, which is it's up here in the Panhandle, but it's the smaller counties. All these counties that have like so many people, they have turned out, they had higher voter turnouts. They worked their behinds off, they got their folks out. We in Escambia County only had 2 things on the ballot, just 2 that we didn't come out for, right? So I'm hoping that y'all aren't going to let us down. We got to do something more and fix this out, because all this work that Cheryl is doing, the bust her behind to ensure that Haley gets a successful victory, ain't gonna cut it with these kind of numbers. They're not, they're not Debbie. They look to us in the Panhandle. What is it? We're the cleanup crew. We give the votes, just enough votes to push the candidates and propel them up to a successful victory, right? That's what our job is, because we don't have the numbers to do so. But we can get out and vote. So to Dr. Green's point, I guess now I have to revise my take 10, and now I'm take 200. What's your 200-person plan to make sure that we do what we need to do to get out of the vote? Jill, what are you about to say?
I would say, can I revise your take 200? You're so funny. If you're going to take 200, I think you could start with 100, but then the other 100, I want it to be outside of your network. That's really what we all have to do. We need to take our 100 to your family, your friends, your neighbors, the people you know, and then commit to finding 100 more people that you normally would not. Like Bill said, he went to church and all of a sudden that's one of yours, Bill. You can count that. You got 99 more to go. People that we normally would not. That's what this is going to take. This is not going to be just your friends and family, because we did that in Obama. An Obama-like movement is not going to beat 45 because he's already got his base in place. It needs to be Obama times 10, which is why Derek moved us to 200. The numbers just have to change. I don't want Florida to not be in play, but I also don't want Florida to just give it to 45. I want us to do everything we possibly can, even though they outnumber us. Who cares? If we do our job and do the 100 plus 100, then we'll be able to flip this state finally back to where it needs to be. But it's not going to come easy, and it's not going to come by giving you I want you to feel great. I want you to be energized. I want you to be committed, but I don't want to lie to you. So that's where I've been. It's not that we can't be in play, and it's not that we can't be the change that's needed, but it's going to take work. And I just want to make sure everybody that's watching understands. Look at where our counties, as hard as you see all of us working through all 3 of our counties, we're at the end. And for what Derek was saying, Broward, Duval, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, those are the big counties that usually carry us over. There's not enough of us to help them if they fail, and they're failing. So we've got to do our work here. Right. Yeah, and everywhere. Like, there's just not, they have so many millions of people down there and Democrats that if they don't do their job, it's going to take all the way to Tallahassee for us to make up for one of their counties.
Yeah.
One of the things I think they should do at the Democratic Party is to use strategies that work. And Jill, you just gave me an idea about multi-tier marketing. Okay, that's what they should do. You bring one. I want to recruit you, but you got to recruit 5 other folks, and those 5 have to recruit 5, and those 5 have to recruit 5. I think that would help. Take it from tried and true marketing strategies, and try to talk voting. Okay, so folks can understand it, and I agree with you. We're gonna need every bit of help that we can get, and I believe I was riding with Biden, but I'm cruising with Kamala now. I think that she has energized the younger people, because I don't know about you, Jill. We talked about it. Biden wasn't doing it for the young folks in my family. Oh, he wasn't doing it at all for them. And but since Kamala got into the race, the attitude had changed. So I believe, and even in the state of Florida, and whether y'all want to call it in play, at play, whatever you want to call it, I think because folks like Kamala getting into the race, trying to motivate these young people, and because we got the abortion on the ballot, and because we got the marijuana on the ballot, I believe that young folks, we stand a chance of turning Florida purple at least, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, one of the things that we all have, I know most of us have about 100 people in our phone.
Yeah.
That we, if everybody start calling those people that we have in our phones, that we already have a list of, that people that we know, I think we can turn this thing around.
And
but
Jerry,
one of the
not to cut you off, but not only phone, but think about your social media account, your friends that you got on TikTok, your friends you got in Facebook, and all that kind of stuff, and their friends. The concept is the same thing. I'm gonna send it to you, then you share it with your friends and ask them to share it with their friends. I think that we're gonna have to use the power of that kind of stuff here, and turn it back over to you, because I cut you off. Because I'm old and I forget what my little point is. So I got to get it in when I can.
That's all right. That's all right. Now, I think one of the greatest things that has happened though is in 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, it's the 5th week. She has energized the whole country almost. And because I saw down there where Trump stronghold down there in South Florida. The people was out talking about Kamala, and this guy was interviewing people coming out of the store in Atlanta, and they was white dudes. They was saying, "I'm voting for Kamala. I'm not voting for nobody that's got felonies and a rapist." So they was just, these was white guys. So I'm like, okay, this could be a game changer here, pretty quick. And I see that the movement is a movement that's taking place almost among what she has done. And I don't know any time in history where in 4 weeks that somebody can energize a whole party and bring that party together like that. That is, the synergy is there. I haven't seen that, and I've been working on campaigns a long time, working with the people on campaigns a long time, but I've never seen it like that. That is awesome, to see that, and to see one of the most unprotected people in the world, which is Black women, to be at the head of a ticket and to be that strong. And, I was hoping that she really came out and, really just spoke well, but she just blew everything away. She just blew everything. She blew all of, all of my expectation was just blown on out there. She just went on out there with it. I'm like, now this is what I'm talking about. And I knew then that it is on. it's on, you know. And they were looking for, some people were looking for, you know, in 016, was it 06, 020 when she ran, you know, and in one interview that she did, you know, she didn't do too well in. But, and that now the Republicans are calling for her to do a television interview. I don't think you want to do that right now. And she's saying she's saying, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it at my leisure. I'm not going to do it just because you asked me, you know. And television people are, oh, she's running. No, she's not. She's running for president of the United States. She ain't got time for you. She got to go out here and build this coalition of people. She got to be on the road speaking to people. You know, why are you out here talking about she's running from you? No, she's not running from you. She's running to be president of the United States. That's about it.
They have absolutely zero sticking points, Jerry, and they want some. They want her to go out. They want her to make some gaffes. And so they can have, because everything that they're throwing at her, nothing is sticking. They're trying from every angle. But I would not dignify them with, I probably would never do a doggone interview just because they're calling for one. I tell you what, get on this debate stage, buddy, and they pick that apart. But she's going to eat him alive on that debate stage.
Yeah, but you know, she gonna sooner or later she'll you know sit down.
She will.
Yeah, but they are trying to, in the midst of the convention, why she having sit down with the media? She don't have time for you.
Well,
you know, shut up, go somewhere. You know, don't have time for you.
I want to say this because I think as we have a captive vote, so and I'm gonna try to address it. Well, two things. One is to our Black Republicans, and it goes to what you're saying. Not all. Well, so I won't even address it to Black people. So I'll take that back. What I will say is that the Republican Party has now started to draft resolutions and pushing now, saying that to try to take it to court that Vice President Harris isn't eligible to run on the basis of the Dred Scott decisions, right? So
Dred Scott,
based on Dred Scott, they went all the way back
to Dred Scott.
Right, they went back to Dred Scott. They said she is not eligible because they're citing several well-known cases, but the precipice of their thing starts with Dred Scott, right? And so for those of you in the audience who don't remember who Dred Scott is or are not history buffs, that is when the man who was enslaved in a southern slave state moved with his slave master to was it Illinois, and which was a free state, and he sued for his freedom because once free, always free, according to that language. He won, took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they said you don't have the right to sue because you aren't considered a citizen. So those privileges don't extend to you. So they just said because you're not Black, because you are Black, you're ergo not a citizen, right? So what the Republican Party is pushing now. She's not eligible. So which is it? She's not Black. Is she Black? She just got Black. Now she's not Black. She can't be eligible because
whatever works for them when it works for them.
Right. I'm like, she wasn't Black yesterday, now she's Black today, but now she can't be eligible because she's Black. And Black folks aren't eligible. So what that says, I guess those who are in office who are Black and Republican, they just told y'all don't have no citizenship. Your own people just told you aren't citizens. If Kamala Harris ain't a citizen, then you aren't either, according to their rationale. So I don't get it, but you know, it is what it is. But what I will say this: this has been bringing out. I think we always saw everybody's true colors, but this is showing true colors, right? And I want to talk about this because we saw it, right? So I'm gonna lean on some folks here for some assistance. We got some pastors. Y'all don't want to say it. Y'all may not want to say it, but I'm gonna put names on it because I believe in transparency. So Mr. or Dr. however you call him, Ted Trey, the Olive Baptist Church,
Oh
which I would
yeah.
consider to be a mega church in white church standards, I guess. They'll put out all this anti-Black and anti-Kamala
Yeah.
rhetoric. And when I saw it, and I asked Phil, because I was unsure, and then I got confirmation. This same man stood in front of all these Black people in February during the Martin Luther King parade and talked about Black, 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 Black. I love Black people. My roommate was Black, and I played basketball with Black folks, and I used to be a racist, but now I'm not because I love Black people. Well, what happened between February and now August?
He liked the rest of me there.
Then you stop
one minute
liking
you like him, one minute you don't.
One minute you don't. I'm confused. Which one is it? So I'm curious. Black folks who attend Olive Baptist, y'all still going? Y'all people who put Ted Trailer up and be like, "Oh, he's the people, the person for me." He don't like you. He just told you on Facebook. You don't read it. You don't have to believe me. Go back and read it for yourself.
It is still up, by the way.
It is still up.
Yeah. And on top of that, he was saying, how can somebody with a yacht, a helicopter, and with money lecture somebody who have no money? Well, I can't lecture you if I don't have no money. I can't tell you how to stuff. So, I mean, that sounds stupid. That's why they got books. All these rich people got books out there that you can read how they did it, how they made it, and trying to tell you how to do the same thing. But all of a sudden now there's a Black person that came up poor, not poor, but pretty much poor, and then made it to the top through intellect, through hard work, as she said the other night. Now you mad because she might. How do you know she have a yacht? How do you know she have a helicopter?
Where her private jet is? I ain't never seen. Unless you call Air Force 2 a private jet. I mean, if that's the case, every president and vice president has a private plane. What are you talking about? It's this foolishness that like you sound stupid, but like and so I'm apologizing in advance if I'm offended some church folks. But it's why everybody who stand up in the pulpit you can't listen to, because everybody ain't right. That's why I'm like, when I'm looking at people sideways and cross-eyed, I look at them sideways and cross-eyed for a reason.
The problem I see, you see the hypocrisy, right? They was talking about the helicopter. Who actually got a helicopter and an airplane and all that crap?
And a gold toilet.
And gold toilet, yeah. Give me
the overly extravagant man who has had a silver spoon in his mouth since birth, who never had a job in his entire life, as opposed to this woman who is going through school, has worked her way up, her and her husband, to build something and become the president of the United States. I just thought it was in very poor taste for a pastor. And when I did come across it, I immediately sent it out to a couple pastors with the question, is this going to go unchecked? Because I think this is a very public statement to make, and in a time where we need to be coming together. And if this is to be checked, it needs to be checked just as publicly as this man thought it was comfortable enough to put out there. No, it's a picture of Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is a picture of Michelle Obama with those words underneath it. And for someone who did speak at the MLK prayer breakfast this past year, right? I think that it should, the pastors need to get together collectively and have a little conversation, because this isn't cool at all.
The thing,
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
The thing about Michelle and Barack Obama and whatever wealth that they do have to have served 8 years here in this country. They deserved every penny and more. And for him to come out, I've seen posts of his over the past 2 years that are so far right wing, but this one here did something different. This one here, I could not let slide.
Can I just say, if it is now okay that pastors take the position to be able to discuss politics openly, then let us do the same thing and get these congregations out to the polling place, bring back souls to the polls, and have whoever we want represented at the churches.
He not only has been posting politics for a while, but this guy, if you read the comments from his flock, you see that the whole place is infested, which is why I can't for the life of me understand how people of color still put a dime in the collection.
But Bill, it's not just people of color. I think it is people, and
that's who they are.
But I'm just saying, people all over. If we are going to follow these leaders, right? You have to incorporate the community, which consists of white, of black, of Asian. So once you separate one, you separate us all.
Cheryl, you are right. You are correct. But that part of the society is dug in with that kind of rhetoric. So sometimes you just can't reach everybody, but the ones that should know better should do better. But I'm convinced that the ones, if you read some of those comments and them so-called Christians, you'll know that they're too far gone and it ain't no sense in trying to. But you're right. I agree wholeheartedly. People of goodwill would not sit under that kind of malarkey.
Now, let me just say this real quick.
Wait, I have a question.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Why, if Bill just said that this man has been writing this kind of stuff for 2 years, did anybody in Pensacola, Escambia County, have him speaking at a black function?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, why was he the keynote or whatever speaker at an MLK event?
I agree.
He was trying to tell us what we used to be in. I mean, that's the part I don't understand.
Whoever invited him did not do any homework.
How did he get to do that if this is not just something he just came up with?
You are absolutely right.
Whoever invited him did not do their homework. I promise you, because I've been turned off from this guy for a couple of years, but I left his post alone. I used to read the comments, but this one here on my girl, Michelle, he crossed the line.
I must say that it was there was pushback from the organization and the members of the board as it pertained to
when he was invited. There was pushback when he was invited.
Now there's a separate committee that works with that particular event in all of the MLK CCC events. So that committee made the decision, and it was then presented to the board kind of in the after effect. Like, we didn't have a say so, but there was pushback from the members of the board. I just have to, make that clear. Okay. But I have reached out to the decision maker.
I'm assuming you're on that board. You need to take that post and you need to share it with those people who made that decision. And
I did
just say, we were talking about.
I specifically sent that post to the decision maker with the question, is this going to go unchecked? And then had a conversation by phone to say that collectively, because I know the group of Black pastors meet regularly, that this needs to be something brought up, and collectively, you guys need to have a conversation to check this behavior, because it is not okay.
Let me say this, between Michelle and President Obama, they probably have sold about 50 million books.
Shouldn't have to justify their wealth. We should not have to.
You don't have to justify it, but I'm just saying, for the people out there that know how they got their money, President Obama had wrote about, written at least 3 books.
Netflix.
About 2 or 3, I believe, and I know I got a couple of her books, and I got 3 of President
Me
Obama.
too.
And they had jobs.
And you're right.
Netflix as well.
Yeah, so I just want people to know that they didn't get their money by like Trump did. They got it the hard way. They got it like
why do we have to justify it in the first place?
400 million. They didn't get hundreds of millions of dollars from their parents. They earned it.
They earned every penny and deserves more.
So pastors want to start talking. They need to look at both sides and kind of practice what they really preach. Okay, and not speak evil of others.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this because my takeaway is I hear you guys. My focus is on something different because I like when we talk about all these churches, because I see it online. What Marcus Point, Olive Baptist, now Brownsville Baptist are having services dedicated to the prayer and making sure that Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz and those in leadership get reelected, right? So they are certainly doing partisan work, very partisan work in their churches. Black pastors, hear me good. It's time for you to stop. It's time for you to get up, stop acting just like they do.
That's right.
Let's go. So every Democrat need to be up in somebody's church talking about we praying for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris.
That's
and
right.
We praying for
Haley Morissette.
And we praying for Gabe Alamont. And we praying for Haley Morissette.
That's right.
For Juan Helms. Let's be clear. It is time for us to start doing exactly what they're doing and stop operating in fear. And that's all.
That's right.
Derek, and
I would
got
go
2 minutes, y'all.
further, Derek, to say, why are we not in their churches? Right? You know, when you go to Bible study and they say, you have any prayer requests, raise your hand.
Right. I want to pray for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Make sure
They
she
have
wins.
to say it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill. I'll do that.
Yeah. And be like, no more prayer requests.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. We got less than 2 minutes.
Oh,
You muted, Jared. You muted. You muted, Jared.
I got you. You good. Go ahead, talk. You're good.
Hey, where do we go from here? Martin Luther King book. I know it's been written a long time, but a lot of people may not have read it yet. It's Where Do We Go From Here, which is a great book. Catch a Fire by Bob Marley is a great book. And Medical Apartheid. I've introduced this before, but it's something that every Black person need to read. So on that,
Cheryl, you got something.
yes. So tomorrow, the campaign for Haley Morissette is hosting a fundraiser at Cactus Cantina on 12th Avenue. It's a $25 donation, and there'll be a full taco bar and a specialty drink called the Hellraiser. So please come out if you can. You can go online to. It's from 5 to 7, and you can go online to runlikehell.com or votemorissette.com.
And I want to close by saying we only got 1 minute, but if you're looking for a Harris Walls yard sign, Escambia County will have some back in stock on Wednesday. Santa Rosa County will have some in stock on someday this week coming up. And Okaloosa County has them. If you want, please reach out to Jill, call the Okaloosa Democratic Party office and tell them you want to sign for the Okaloosa Democratic Black Caucus and tell them how do you get in contact. And they will put you in contact. Or Jill, you want to give your information if you want?
Or you can call me at 850-259-4735. 850-259-4735, and we will bring signs to your area anywhere in Okaloosa County.
And any one of these, we are requesting, because we did have to come out of pocket to incur the cost of making them. So there is a $10 donation that we're asking of